Epilogue, 2010. There are no secrets that time does not reveal. Jean Racine. I won't go into the depths of my grieving in these pages. Grief is a private suffering. I would have ended my mother's story with her death, except for the following events that move this story on to one final extraordinary chapter. I still had the tapes that Mum made of episodes from her life, and had written part of her story during my Open University years as an extended essay on women's studies. I felt strongly that hers was a life that should not go unrecorded, but for 4 or 5 years after her death I couldn't face the emotions that I knew would surface when I revisited the past. But my mother's longing for her father was something that wouldn't leave me alone, and I spent hours trawling the internet looking for my grandfather's name. I would spend days searching, and then give up for months, and then start searching again. The World Wide Web was growing. Every time I revisited it, there would be more information online, but never anything about Chaim Levi Rotblat. I found the jewishgen.org website and registered my search criteria online. I couldn't put in much information, just his name, the likely decade of his birth, and the possibility that he came from Russia or Poland, nothing more. I wasn't even sure how he had spelt his name. It could have been Levi or Levi, Rotblat, Rothblatt, Rothblatt, or Rotblatt. There was so little to go on, and I never held out much hope. Still, I searched the database and checked all the Rotblatts I could find there. No Chaim Rotblatt was listed. I began writing this book, and time again, Mum's sadness and need for her lost father came back to me. It was a longing that recurred throughout her life. Through writing her story and closely identifying with her, I found that the need to find out something, anything, about my grandfather had taken on a new dimension. After a long gap in my search, I went back to the Jewish Gen website to check once more. Amazingly, my grandfather's name appeared on the screen. It didn't seem very likely that this was the same man, but still, on the 28th of October 2006, I sent a message to the contact, just in case. After a couple of emails with Howard Rotblatt, we agreed that it was unlikely that his uncle Chaim, who had changed his name to Herman, could be my grandfather, and the emails between us stopped. It was a year later, after Miranda and I travelled to Krakow together in the vain hope of finding some clue about our grandfather's life or death, that I heard from Howard again. Over the next few months we exchanged what information we had, he about his uncle and me about my mother's father. Facts were pretty sketchy on both sides, but the strange thing was that the more information we exchanged, the more coincidences we found. His uncle had a daughter whose name was Charlotte. When I read that, a shiver went through me, for Carlotta was my mother's middle name. Had Chaim named his second daughter after his first? Howard sent attachments of photographs of his uncle, taken in the 1940s. As soon as I opened them, I had a flash of recognition. I showed the photos to Miranda, and she too thought the resemblance to our Uncle Hans was uncanny. Later he sent a picture of a little girl that had been, amongst other things, probably belonging to his uncle. On the back, in Yiddish, was written, "My daughter is 3 years old."